much, John.
Thanks, Joe.
And we'll keep you up on stage, I believe, as you have a report based on an inquiry that came to us in our July meeting in regards to the Pine Barrens concerns.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So yes, as you're,
Are you doing a report on the Pine Barrens?
Yeah.
Okay. I just have to recuse myself,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna leave and I'll be back.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
So as the chairman said, as you're all aware, there was a questions were brought to the board relating to two matters related to the Southeast Pine Barrens. And our staff conducted a review of both of those. We then held a briefing for Chairman Sears, Commissioner, and the director, and we answered any questions that they had. There are also two documents in your board packet related to these matters. The first one, relative to the AD Makepeace permitting, is a memo from our Assistant Director, Eve Schluter, summarizing her review. In summary, all the work that has been carried out by AD Makepeace is fully in compliance with permitting and mitigation requirements of the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act and its implementing regulations. And I'll just give you a little bit of background. While most of the projects that we review under the Mass Endangered Species Act don't rise to the level of what we call a take, there is a minority that do result in a take of state-listed species. And as a reminder, a take involves harming or killing of state-listed species or disrupting their behavior, for example, through the loss of habitat. In this case, a take was unavoidable, so the AD Makepeace companies had to obtain a conservation and management permit. And in a nutshell, since 2009, 248 acres have been developed of habitat have been developed by the Makepeace company, but at the same time, this habitat loss has been mitigated by the permanent protection of 437 acres of habitat, actually really prime and important habitat, Pine Barrens habitat that directly abuts Miles Standish State Forest. The applicant also had to provide $380,000 in funds for habitat restoration and management. So the permitting assumes and allows for the complete loss of that 248 acres and then full mitigation, what we call net benefit mitigation for that loss. And from the important to note, from the perspective of these rare species that live in upland Pine Barrens, it doesn't matter what is in the project footprint. It doesn't matter whether the land was cleared for a cranberry bog or a subdivision or gravel extraction. The point is the habitat was lost and it's been fully mitigated. Moving on to the other issue that was raised, the second matter relates to a conservation restriction that the department and the division hold over something called Plymouth Town Forest. So we monitored that property, and we received a request from the town of Plymouth to amend the CR to allow for limited increase in parking, for a very small parking area, 4 to 6 vehicles. So as outlined in the letter in your packet from our district manager, Jason Zimmer, we support the amendment request in principle. And we're confident that the additional parking can provide important limited, emphasize limited additional public access for compatible passive recreation without adversely impacting, in this case, it's the coastal plain pond shore with a bunch of rare plants. This is very limited access, and the history and the monitoring show that this kind of access can be accommodated without negative impacts on the rare plants in this case. So this improved public access is consistent with the purposes of the CR, which is partly to have people enjoy this resource. And it's a public trust resource, frankly. There are 2 ponds there, Great South and Little South ponds. And we want people to be able to enjoy those ponds without adversely impacting the resource. It's also consistent with our mission, because we manage and protect habitat, as you all know, for wildlife to thrive. Wildlife includes rare plants, and for people to enjoy. So lastly, I'll thank you for your time, and I want to thank the the staff for completing this review, but also for all the hard work that they're doing to protect the Southeast Pine Barrens through, we're pretty active in that area through land protection, prescribed fire, habitat management, and regulatory work.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have any further questions or clarifying comments?
We have to maintain the document.
No, so the town owns the property and fee, and they're responsible for all the management and signage. Our primary role is monitoring.
Thank you.
I too would like to thank the staff, in particular Jason and Eve, for conducting the review and drafting the letters, and John and the staff.